rumours surrounding growing fears Sydney and Melbourne may be in the midst of a property bubble, and it's about to burst. Nine's finance expert Ross Greenwood joins us now with the very latest information. Ross, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl.
There's been some ominous warnings around.
There have been. They've been around not just for, 6 months or so. They've been there for quite some time. What's happened here is it's been escalated because you've had the chairman of the Australian Securities Investments Commission, Greg Medcraft, actually use the B word, use the bubble word, which is actually an important thing. And also, and then on top of that, you've had Philip Lowe, the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank, again talking about the overheating of, in particular, the Sydney property market. And well, I think we're going to remember here, Carl, this is really a Sydney phenomenon. To a lesser extent, Melbourne. Because if you think about Sydney property prices over the past year are up by 14.5%. In Melbourne, it's about 6.8, 6.9%. The rest of the country, with the exception of Darwin, is absolutely flat. Some of the states have gone backwards. Most of them have got around about a 2% growth. So, we're talking about this. Most people in Perth and Adelaide, Brisbane are sitting there going, oh, what you're talking about Sydney again.
That's what I'm saying before, is that people need to be aware and conscious of the fact that a lot of the commentary coming out at the moment is just related to Sydney. If you're anywhere else around the country, then why would you worry?
Well, you wouldn't worry, except for the fact that the behaviour of the Reserve Bank, and maybe even the behaviour of your bank in the future, might be based around what's happening in Sydney.
How much they call it.
So let's say, for example, they sit there and say, well, in the future, like in New Zealand, they've actually come out in Auckland specifically and demanded that people have higher deposits if they're going to get into the Auckland property market to stop some people from getting in. Now, let's say, for example, if that were to go around Australia, because Apple was concerned about the solvency of banks, then that could certainly have an impact for somebody trying to get a loan in Brisbane or Adelaide or Perth, wherever it might be. So the idea of trying to isolate where the actual bubble or the price hikes are occurring is a very, very difficult thing to do when you've got a national banking industry.
This is the worry, I reckon, too. If you have a look at this graphic, and look, a lot of it's pumped up by the Sydney prices, but look at Australia's house price compared to average income ratio.
That's what people worry about,
It's the highest in the world at the moment.
Well, and you think about what it is that drives people into housing in Australia. The thing is, you've got record low interest rates, you've got relatively high wages over a period of time compared with the rest of the world. And then you've got another thing, there's no capital gains tax when you sell your house. So many people put much of their wealth into their home in Australia and to a lesser extent New Zealand. Whereas if you go, say, for example, to the UK and the United States, what we're looking at here is incredibly flat housing markets caused by the global financial crisis. Whereas here Australia is obviously and New Zealand have come through that crisis in much better shape. The second part of it also is with growing populations, you've actually had a shortage of housing, particularly in Sydney. Then on top of this, what's added fuel to the flame is international buyers coming in and chasing those investment properties, and then the ability for superannuation funds, self-managed super funds, to borrow money and invest in these areas. And that is one thing that may be curbed in the future, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Good on you, Ross.
No
Thank you very much.